Hello, beautiful people. If you're here, I'm assuming you're planning a road trip, possibly a first one that you're going to do solo. If that's so, that's a great place for you to be. Today I want to shed a little bit more light into what comes into planning a road trip and how to navigate it, especially while traveling solo. My name is Agata. I've been full-time nomading around the world for the past 2 years, but I have the biggest passion of mine is just being on the road. That's why I will be sharing some tips with you, what worked well for me. So first of all, I want to give you a little agenda. First, I will talk about intention. For me, one of the most important, crucial anchors and useful tools to have. Second is like general traveling experience. Three is the choice of a vehicle. Four, accommodation, which is connected with the vehicle you choose, and some additional tips. So let's get into it. First of all, intention. Wow, this is so important. I feel like first trips I've been doing, it was not maybe. There was, of course, an intention, right? Usually it's, you just want to see the places, immerse yourself in the nature, go on an adventure, but it can be very different. It can vary a lot, right? Depending who you are, what are your priorities, and basically what kind of experience you want to craft for yourself. Because road trip can be very different depending what you want to experience. I would really invite you before starting to book stuff to come back to your intention. What do you want to prioritize? I will give you an example. When I was before going to Iceland for 3 weeks where I was car camping, I wrote down intention that was very simple: to have fun while my nervous system is relaxed. And let me tell you, it sounds simple. It's literally sometimes like 30 seconds of your time before you start planning, but really it works wonders, especially on the road, facing many different challenges and decisions and unexpected circumstances. Second of all, in general, what do you want to experience? Ask yourself those questions. Do you want to maximize the number of places you're seeing? Do you want to focus on specific activities like hiking or, I don't know, mountain biking, skiing, just being active in the nature? Or do you want to see the most museums on the road? There are so many different things you can focus on. And for me, what worked very well, actually one day just sat down and I wrote all of the activities that I know that I enjoy doing, and I just categorize them in terms what are more active, that I'm moving my body, which are more sedentary, which are for my creative spark, which are more mindful for my soul, to really have a full scope of experiences. Having the list of just okay, it is raining for this third day, I don't get so overwhelmed because now I don't know what to do, all my plans are kind of, out of the window. I have a tunnel vision and it's hard for me to navigate, but instead you go back to this very simple list of activities that bring you joy and that you enjoy while you're traveling. For me, really kind of simple but game changer. The next aspect is the vehicle, and I really want to mention that depending on your intention and activities, it will depend what vehicle you want to choose, right? I wrote down that basically, in my view, there are three main categories. So in terms of vehicles, what you can choose, first of all, is just having a car. Second of all, is car that is semi-equipped for you to sleep in it. And third is van. So proper place where you just can kind of live, and some things are easier to navigate. Okay, first of all, let me talk more about the car option. So with just having a regular car option, usually it would mean that you will be depending on just booking accommodations along the way. But something that I've done as well, you can just rent a regular car. I don't know if I recommend this, and just basically sleep in a car that is not really, accustomed for it. So for example, when I was doing a road trip from San Francisco to Los Angeles through the Californian Highway 1, I didn't want to spend so much money because, you know, depending on the region as well, even renting the car can be super expensive. And for me, I knew that it was going to kind of quicker road trip. I think it was less than 10 days for sure. And what I've done was actually to buy some very simple equipment in terms of like a tent and like some sleeping bags, etc., with the idea that, you know, after the trip is over, I will just pass it on. It just still was a better option than just trying to, you know, rent a full-on camper van. The fact that usually it's a cheaper option that you just have a regular car, I think that's almost the and the second one is that you don't really need to worry about driving conditions, right? Like, it's not really, and especially if you're also planning to visit some cities, easier just to find parking with regular car than any bigger car, right? So that's, like, I would say, two main benefits of renting a car. And definitely it comes with a lot of considerations. Again, depending what's your goal and what is your vision of the road trip. But something that you need to remember is your basic needs, right? So here, for example, cooking, you can do the same as I've done with just buying an equipment. So just buying a little stove, but it's tricky, right? Because then you need to like kind of think about all of the other cutlery you would need to have, or just kind of skip the idea of having any type of like kitchen utensils apart from some basic things that you could just use. And considering if you're going to just use the car to, you know, get yourself from place one to place B, that could be an option, right? Considering you will be staying at some campground, I'm assuming, or in some accommodation, Airbnb, booking, whatever it is, right? But then you just need to also consider, okay, I need to book accommodation where I can actually cook. So that's one thing. Second option that I wrote down is full-on car camping. So this is something where you're fully just like independent in terms of like booking external accommodations, like you are sleeping in the car that is it is actually prepared for it. This experience I've done twice. Once I actually converted my old Ford Focus that is like 20 years old, and I bought a rooftop tent that was on the top, and I was just like traveling with all of the equipment for cooking, for camping, this and that, for 6 weeks. But to be honest, again, just consider how long are you going, what's the weather, because it all depends on what's the conditions. It's definitely a nice option if you're mainly planning to be outside, but it gets tricky when it's cold, when it's raining. You're kind of, you know, this is the only place you can be. So I spent many days just working from my cold car on the front seat because there was no space in the back. I was traveling for 6 weeks, so there was not really much room left back. And the second experience I've done with just car camping is when I was doing it with a Tesla in Iceland. It was super nice because sleeping was inside, so it was really, really warm comparing to the tent. So it was definitely more pleasurable experience. But with car camping option, remember that in terms of cooking, you will be relying either on campgrounds that you will be staying at, or just embracing cooking in open spaces. Again, it all depends on the country where you're going. Do your research, like what is like the camping infrastructure, because in some countries they are definitely better prepared for you to just, you know, enjoy some outside like seating tables, or even sometimes with that are have tiny roofs, so when there's rain you can still go there. But, you know, just remember, if there's cold is going to be anywhere apart from the campgrounds. Campgrounds are the best, but I will talk about this in the next option. And depending, if you're choosing a tent, be more aware about the conditions, the weather, and also safety. I guess maybe this is something I didn't touch upon. Definitely for me, it was something in back of my head, you know, that like I'm just in a tent and like I'm the most visible person ever sleeping there. So I didn't really love it, but when I was camping in Tesla, I felt like at home, literally. You know, I put my lights, I closed the car, I set the temperature. It was amazing, even though it was Iceland and it was freaking cold. It was really, really a pleasurable experience. The last thing that you can choose is having a van. And this I would really consider how long and how remote you want to go. For me, usually, even like I think one of the most remote places was definitely Iceland, where I felt like, you know, it was far away from anything else, but still it wasn't like a journey that I knew that, for example, like I'm living off grid for 7 days straight, right? Or that I'm literally just living and working from there. Then definitely a van is amazing. If it's a long term, like just take the van, you know, like there's something beautiful in just being able to sit with a table and do stuff, or even like when you're cooking to stand up, like it's such a blessing, and that it's warm and it's just covered from the wind. So the van definitely comes with a lot of benefits. Usually it's the most expensive option, and also something to consider is something like bathroom, right? Sometimes the vans have like bathroom, even a shower. For me, I had it once when I was road tripping Madeira, but it was totally not necessary. I don't know, like I think it has some use cases if you're thinking like more long term to stay in a van or be like super off grid, then go for it. But for me, it literally was just kind of, it wasn't worth it. The size of the car, the struggles I had with driving it, this is another consideration. Wherever you're going, kind of check what's the terrain. I remember when I went to Madeira, I definitely did not do the smartest things because it's a tiny island that it's mainly just like mountains, like to the extent that they had to like build like literally a cement, I don't know how to say it, but like artificial infrastructure for the airport, because there was no plane like flat enough for a long time enough to build an airport there. So that gives you an image of how it is. So for me, that was not worth it having a van there. So yeah, that are basically your three main options. Feel what you see is like the most calling you. So the fourth part I want to talk about is accommodation. So this is super related to what you chose previously, but I will just mention those two things. So accommodation, usually I use Booking, especially when booking last minute, and I use Airbnb. With Airbnb, one tip, I always message a host if they can offer me a discount. And surprisingly, I think like 80% of times I get a discount. So feel free to use it for yourself, but this is super nice. But apart from that, for almost all of the options, no matter, apart from the carpools, like regular accommodation, you will be using Campgrounds, right? Because I'm at least speaking from the experience in being in traveling around Europe. Majority, or I want to say almost every country but Norway has super tough restrictions about wild camping. And of course, if you're somewhere in Alps on like a place that nowhere comes, probably you're good, right? But like if you're traveling to some more well-known places, like probably you need to use a campground because you can get fined. Unfortunately, I found about this literally first night that I spent in my fort with the tent. Police woke me up at 6 a.m. and charged me like 150 euros fine. So this is happening. Of course, it can be slightly different. I don't have that much experience because I have not tried wild camping by myself, more like in the nature. So I don't know, probably it's kind of easier to get unnoticed because it just looks like a parked car, right? Depending on what kind of car you also have. But this is like for your, yeah, you just need to decide for yourself if that's the risk you want to take, and it all depends on your road trip plan. And campgrounds, oh my god, I don't know, I really loved it. So I've been to Iceland twice. First I was with like a regular smaller van, and second time I was with a Tesla. At the beginning I was like, I don't know if that's such a great idea, you know, like, but actually when you think about this, you want get a safe space to park, and you get access to the toilet, to the shower, and to the kitchen, and sometimes to amazing communal rooms, which is a true game changer if you're traveling where the climate is not the nicest. So it's not type of a vibe that you can sit in the park like this. That probably wouldn't make such a big difference. But for me, considering, you know, at night, I don't know, it was close to 0 degrees, you're after a whole day of traveling or hiking, being outdoors, it's really nice to be able to sit somewhere else than a car that is just cozy and warm and amazing. So definitely use campgrounds. This is just, I don't know, I'm in love. But be aware that with campgrounds, it all depends on the season and where you're going. Because I experienced this many times, that some campgrounds are just full, like full. And you sometimes need to book like in advance. This is not what I experienced in Iceland, but when I was in US, the state parks, like usually there is like, it's tricky to get a spot depending where you are, but do your research and see how it is in the country or countries that you're going to. And also when I was doing the road trip in Europe, I was driving from Poland through like Czechia, Slovenia, then Italy and France, like going on the coast. Like it's insane, like you can forget it. Like I struggled many times to find a spot, and you know, it's different when you don't have a campground and you're just in the middle of nowhere, but in some parts of Europe, like it gets so busy and you just have a road and nowhere actually other to go. It's not like the wilderness is easy to reach. That brings me, you know, we could talk about different ways of accommodation and like different vehicles and what is best, but as I say, it all depends where do you want to go, what's your idea for the travel. And the last 2 points I want to mention, first of all, just remember to have fun. I know that especially road tripping, sometimes like the maintenance part of life takes a big chunk of your time, and it can be frustrating that, you know, to cook a dinner in your little camping stove and wash the dishes is like 2-hour process, right? That you're cold and in the rain. But just remember to have fun, you know, really go and just see for yourself if that's something you enjoy. And that brings me to the last part I want to mention, 50-50 rule. This is a beautiful rule. My coach always mentions that no matter what you choose, it's going to be 50-50. Of course, it's amazing. You have the freedom to be in many places during a short, like 7 days on the road feels like a month, right? This is beautiful. And you can go to super remote places and enjoy breakfast with beautiful views, waterfalls, volcanoes, mountains, ocean, like you name it. But it also comes with the challenges, right? Sometimes it will be frustrating that it's so cold and it's raining all the time and you don't really know what to do with yourself, you know, because you wanted to be outside. Or sometimes something just breaks and you cannot cook and you're dependent on just getting food somewhere that maybe you would not like to, or you really need to wait, you know, to take a shower, the warm shower you wanted to. So it's always 50-50. Just be mindful of that, but also don't be discouraged, because no matter what type of travel you choose, it's always going to be like this. That being said, if you're planning your first ever road trip, feel free to message me. I'm happy to give you some advice depending on your particular circumstances. And that being said, I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye.